So right now, when we add a new entry, I'll just add phone and -60. The entries do get added to the bottom, as we'd expect for this app. However, the rows can sometimes come back from Supabase in different orders. And I think by default, what Supabase is doing is putting the row which was edited last at the bottom. So if I rename this salary edited to just salary and hit enter and reload the page, we now see this item at the bottom. And since we have this sort functionality in our app, we need a new column or field for our entries to order our entries correctly by. So in this module, we're going to add a new order column or field to our entries table, which we can order our entries by. And we're also going to handle updating these order numbers when the user uses this sort functionality. So I'm just going to jump back to the code. Let's jump to source, stores, and store entries.js. Let's jump up to the entries array ref at the top. So what we could do is add a new property or column to our entries called order. So I'm just going to do a multiple select by holding down the Alt key on each of these paid properties here. And I'll add a comma. We could call this property order. And I'm just going to use the insert numbers extension to insert the numbers 1 to 4. So for now, let's add 5 entries to Moneyballs and to Supabase. And we'll name these 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we'll add this new order column to Supabase and manually add these order numbers and see if we can display our entries in the correct order based on those order numbers. So I'm going to edit this first entry. I'm going to call this 1. And I'll set the amount to 111, and I'll set this one to 2, and set the amount to -222, and I'll do the same for 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so let's jump back to Supabase and the entries table. So we can see these entries we just added, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Help me out with a quick like, comment, share, or subscribe. But we don't have this order column yet, so let's create that. So if we jump over to these 3 dots here and edit table and scroll down, we can add this new column. So let's click on add column and we'll call this column order, and we'll set the type to integer 8 because this is going to be an integer. We'll set the default value to 1, and then I'm going to click on this little cog and uncheck is nullable, because we don't ever want this order column to be null or empty, because this would break the app's ordering. So let's click on save, and I'll just full screen this, and we can see this new order column, and these are all set to 1 at the moment. Well, let's set these to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 based on the names of our entries. So the one called 1 is already set to 1. So let's change this 2 to 2, and 3 to 3, and 4 to 4, and 5 to 5. So let's jump back to Moneyballs and reload the page. And if we open up the DevTools and go to View DevTools and Pinia and Entries, we can now see these order properties for each of our entries. So now let's order our entries by this order number. And these entries are currently in the correct order. And I think that's just because I edited them in order. So if I change this first one to 11, reload, then 1 jumps down to the bottom. So let's order these entries by this new order property. And we could create a getter in our Pinia store to do this, but we can actually have these ordered by Supabase based on the order column. So let's jump to the Supabase API docs. Last time I checked, there was nothing about ordering in this API docs section. However, if you click on API reference down at the bottom here, then we can learn about this here. So if we go to reference and JavaScript and database and using modifiers and order the results, then we can see how to do this here. So all we need to do is add this order method to our query when we first grab the entries from Supabase, specify which column we want to order by, and optionally specify whether we want to display these in ascending or descending order. So I'm just going to copy this order method from the bottom and jump back to store entries. We'll jump to load entries. where we first grabbed the entries from Supabase here. Let's paste in this order method. We want to order by the order column that we just added. So let's change this first parameter to order. We want to order these in ascending order. So we can either leave this object in and set it to true, or we can just remove this object entirely because it will order in ascending order by default. But I'll just leave this here for reference. So now if I save this and reload, our entries are now in the correct order based on the new order column. Get the full course, including authentication, row-level security and policies, database functions and triggers, storage, edge functions, and running Supabase locally from makeappsacademy.com, or click the link in the description.